Jang seeding carrots. So I made some videos during the growing season, and I promised I would come back and talk about the specifics of what rollers and gears and stuff I used for seeding carrots. And so go ahead and take a look at the video, and I'll talk about what I've decided for next season at the end of the video. Okay everybody, I'm getting ready to seed this bed in carrots. The weird details about this is that I prefer to use pelleted carrot seed. You know, it's got a little coating on it, so it's a nice little round seed, whereas the raw carrot seed is kind of more elongated, like a lettuce seed. And so I've never seeded raw carrot seed with this seeder before. But I couldn't get the varieties of carrot that I wanted. I'll put Ya raw carrot seed in the bed here today. The roller that I have in the seeder right now is an X24, and I'm going to run the 2 outer rows and the center row with that roller. And then I'm going to switch it out, and I'm going to use this XY24, which has kind of a crisscross indentation in the roller, and it's supposed to be used for lettuce seed, but it can also maybe be used for carrot seed. In both cases, I kind of tested the seed, and it drops like 3 seeds per divot, so it's probably going to be overseeded, but better overseeded than not enough seed. And then I'll have to come through and thin the carrots. I've got to set up the gears because I'm going to do I think 1-inch spacing. Okay, so actually I've got the gears 11 in front and 11 in the back, which gives me 1.5-inch spacing with a 24 hole, which is probably fine. Probably better than 1-inch spacing. Might be actually a little too close, especially since it's going to be dropping more seeds than I need. And what I have in here right now in this roller is the X24. Starting out with about 0.4 ounces. Okay, and we finished with about 0.2 ounces of seed. Okay, so now I need to set this whole bed up with a row cover on the top of it so that the robins won't scratch around in the newly seeded seed. Okie dokie, so I got row cover. But I'm gonna come over here to my 3 carrot beds. I seeded this one a while ago. Today I'm gonna go ahead and I just raked it out real quick, and I'm gonna seed this second bed of carrots because we're getting these showers and I just wanna take care of that. And I don't have time to deal with this 3rd bed. I still need to go ahead and fork through it and get out the rocks and sticks. Planting Giants of Colmar, raw carrot seed. The weather is looking pretty grim. We keep getting these showers and it's getting really cloudy, so I'm gonna race through this. I'm using the X24 roller with the 11 by 11 gear. I'm gonna do the 3 rows like I did the last time, and I'm gonna switch out to the XY24 roller and do the inner 2 rows. Here we go. Giants of Colmar raw carrot seed. We're starting out with 0.35 ounces. Okay, and seed weight after seeding, 0.12 ounces, which is mostly the package. I'm planting my 3rd bed. Normally I would want to plant them all at once because they hold in the ground pretty good. But I've just had to take time to prep them one at a time because that's how it's worked out. This is the only seed that I could get in pellets this year, and I like this carrot, Merita. I'm going to seed 5 rows. I'm using the LJ 24 roller with the 11 by 11 gear, and that gives me a 1.5 inch spacing, which I'd probably like maybe a little bit tighter, but I'm just not gonna. That's how I seeded the other ones. Of course, those were seeded in raw seed, and they have different rollers. So this time I was thinking about modifying. This is why I was waiting for this bed besides having to prep it. I was thinking about modifying the roller so that the LJ24 had deeper holes, because it seems like the pelleted seed sticks up a little bit higher than it should. But I was chatting with Tyler about that, because I was going to have him drill the holes for me. He's a machinist. It would have gone quickly, you know. And he was looking into Johnny's information about the Jang, and he was reading the notes more closely than I have in the past. And they were talking about taking out that little felt piece, which allows the pelleted seed to come off more easily, and also lifting the brush just a teeny bit. And so that's how it's set up here. And so, because in the past I've used the LJ24 or the LJ12, and I've had some pretty big skips. 5.47 ounces before seeding. After seeding, 4 ounces. Let's go take a look at that first bed of carrots that I seeded. I did a quick peek of the outer row just to see how it was doing, but let's take a look at all of these rows and compare, because I seeded the outer 2 rows and the center row with 1 roller, and then the other 2 rows with a different roller. So this outer row and the others are seeding really closely. So it's definitely not precision seeding, because it would have been like 1.5 inches difference, but at least it's putting down a lot of seed. Whereas both of the other 2 rows, the last 2 rows that I did, probably seeding maybe a little more precisely, and that you're getting 1.5 inches, but then I'm having these kind of big gaps, which just maybe is germination, but you know, kind of a pile of seeds and then some gaps. Not too bad actually though. But I mean, I think that I'd probably rather have more seed than not enough seed. And I'm seeing the exact same pattern. Like for example, this is the far row and it's seeding pretty good. So anyway, yeah, this is that center row and you can see a lot more seed going down. So you can see in this second seeding of carrots, the same pattern as this first bed, where you've got the 2 outer rows and the center row are heavily seeded, and the 2 rows in between are, there's not as much seed, but maybe more precision seeded. And if I just, changed the gear so that I had tighter spacing, maybe that would work better. So we'll see. Okay, taking a look at my third seeding of carrots. I used the LJ24 roller with the 11 by 11 gear, and that will give me 1.5 inch spacing. And it's kind of doing that, but there'll be kind of these big gaps, which could be just germination, or it could be the roller. But I think that does show me, so here's a big gap right here, right? If I just switch the gear like I did with the lettuce, the lofty salad mix, now see, this is a big gap, then I'll get a little bit tighter seeding. But I might go ahead and take the Jang and seed between these rows, since the spacing is quite wide. I'll have to think about that. I might do that right before a day when it's gonna rain or something. Okay, so we are moving over to this bed of carrots. And I am seeding with the LJ24 roller. Gears are 14 in front and 10 in the rear for 1-inch spacing. And I'm just gonna put 4 rows in between the existing 5 rows for a total of 9 rows. I pulled the brushes up just a little bit. I had the brushes up a little bit, tiny bit for the lettuce seed. And with this pelleted carrot seed, pulled it up a little bit farther because then it won't try and pluck out the seed. And I don't think it'll let any of the pellets, additional pellets come through. And I think for this pelleted carrot seed, I want to go ahead and do a little bit wider spacing at 1 inch. I've got the LJ24 roller, and so I'm going to go ahead and switch that rear gear to 10. So 10 in the rear, 14 in the front. 10 in the rear, 14 in the front. Okay, well, hopefully I didn't just bury all of my little seedlings. Alrighty, so Merita pelleted carrot seed, about 4 ounces before seeding. After seeding, pelleted carrot seed, 1.83 ounces, and that is mostly container, just a handful of seeds in there. Alrighty, so I've got these 2 beds thinned. They were both seeded with raw seed, and this bed was seeded later with pelleted carrot seed, and I don't think I'm going to need to thin that one. But definitely the outer 2 rows in the center that I use a different roller with, it seeded a lot more thickly. And it was hellish to thin because there's just seed right on top of each other. The 2 rows in between weren't so bad. I might not have even thinned them. There was some seed right on top of each other, but the spacing was a lot better. I had to do a lot less thinning. And I did the seeding in the same way, and I experienced the same thing in this bed as well. The outer 2 rows and the center were really super thick and a pain in the ass. And then the other 2 rows in between weren't too bad. So there you go with the carrots. I'm going to be harvesting carrots for the first time this year to sell. So we'll see how many I actually have, because I got like 38 orders so far. 38 orders for 38 bunches. It hadn't rained yet, so I was thinking, yank all these carrots out, get them cleaned. I've got 27 bunches of that bed of Yaya, 8 of the Merita carrots. I'm going to be harvesting from this bed of Merita variety carrots. I finished up with the whole bed of Yaya, and I had to grab like 8 bunches from this bed last week. So I'm getting this Merita bed right here. I seeded 4 more rows in between those 5 rows. So I've pulled out a lot of the, the ones from the first 5 rows that, grew first. And the ones that went in between are still growing. You think, oh wow, I could pull them as baby carrots, right? And you think, oh, like this one might be an okay size, but it's just like not really formed. Unlike the Yaya variety that I had, originally in this bed over here, you can pull them when they were little and they would just be kind of like, oh, fully formed, baby sized carrots. 15 Merita, 12 Giants of Colmar. Then I've got my bed of Giants of Colmar, which was intended for personal use. But I'm going to go ahead and harvest out of this bed and sell to customers because this bed of Merita is not going to be ready. And so I experimented with the XY24 roller, which has the little crisscrosses, and the X24 roller, which is just a little hole. And at first I thought it would be better if I used, as I saw the carrots germinating and I saw that the X24 roller had dumped more seed, and I thought, oh, well, that's probably going to be better. But actually it turned out to be a big pain in the butt because I had to go through and thin those carrots. Whereas the ones that were seeded with the XY24 roller, which is the little crisscrosses, it wasn't as thickly seeded. It was a little bit more precision seeding. And I really didn't have to thin those. And so in the future, when I use raw seed, I'm definitely using the crisscross XY24 roller. And initially I was lazy and I didn't change the gears. They were 11 by 11 for a 1.5 inch spacing. And that might have been okay, because if I had done them any tighter, then I might have had to thin the carrots. But I may experiment with using the 1.5 inch spacing, and I'll maybe going down to an inch spacing to see if that'll work. So, but definitely XY24 roller for raw carrot seed. That's what I'm going with. And then I also use the LJ24 roller for pelleted carrot seed. I've used that in the past and it's worked pretty good. I did find that with the wider spacing, the 11 by 11 gear for the 1.5 inch spacing was too wide when I did the initial 5 rows in that one bed of pelleted carrot seed. And so then when I went between those rows and I did 4 more rows at a tighter 1 inch spacing using the gears, what is that? 14 in the front, 9 in the rear, I believe it was. And that spacing was good. So I think with the pelleted carrot seed, it does do a little bit more precision seeding with that little round seed. And so having a tighter spacing of 1 inch is probably better. Now, do I want to just do raw seed, or do I want to try raw seed and pelleted carrot seed? I think I might want to continue experimenting with both, because the pellets do seem to precision seed better. And if I can get the variety I want in the pelleted carrot seed, maybe I should just get it. So I think I'm going to continue to experiment with that. But first time seeding raw seed works best with the XY24. Probably continue to experiment with the LJ24 and the pelleted carrot seed. One thing that I found out from this last year, I had to plant my carrot seeds in, successions, because I was still having to prep each individual bed and get rocks and stuff out of them. But normally I would go ahead and just plant all the carrots beds at once. And I think that definitely would be better, because I was kind of waiting and waiting for the next carrots. Oh, please become mature so I can harvest them next. And they always seem to hold in the ground fine when I plant them all at once. So I'm going to try and get them all planted at once next year in 2023. The other thing that I found out was when I did that first seeding of 5 rows, and then I came back and did the 4 rows later in between, that actually worked out really good. It didn't seem to hinder the growth of the first seeding of carrots. So I was able to harvest those, and then the ones that came along later ended up growing okay. They were a little small by the end of the season, so if I could get that second seeding earlier, then they would grow and be able to be harvested before the end of the season. And I could possibly get 2 harvests out of a bed of carrots. So I'm going to continue to experiment with that. That was pretty cool. But anyway, learned a lot about carrots this year, and I will continue to experiment and let you know what I find out next year.